Okay, school this year went on pretty much normal. There's one thing I wanted to say that after Kenny left by Keith Rogers, his friend, he was working at a grocery store downtown, and I think he must have took his lunch break at our place because lots of times when Betty and I'd get home from school, Keith would show up just afterwards, and he'd come down there for his lunch. His lunch consisted of two or three bananas and two or three maple bars. And never once were we offered one, not even a bite. And like Betty said, I'd just like to grab one of the bananas and rolls and eat it. But he came down there often, and I think mostly probably have a place to eat lunch, and maybe he thought that I was lonesome or something because he and Kenny were good friends. The rest of the year went on pretty much as normal. Uh, Lorraine, like I said, had her car, and we went to some out of sight games. I did stay all night with her several times, so I got to know her brothers and their friends pretty well. Uh, and we went to the dances, but it was mostly girls dancing girls or some soldiers or servicemen be home on leave. So the rest of the year went pretty calm, and also studying for normal training. Uh, that test was coming up pretty soon, and oh, when we got close to our prom, I don't know why I hadn't been home or why, but anyway, Mother supposedly mailed my formals to town. Well, it didn't arrive and didn't arrive, and it came in on Sunday, and I still hadn't got it. Well, Dad was still coming to town. He wasn't on a county commissioner anymore, but he was still on that draft board. And he came in and wanted to know if I'd got that dress, and I said no. Well, he either called or went to Canerada, and they said, well, they had sent it to Goodland. So he went to the post office, and he told them that that dress had to be here somewhere, or that package had to be there. No, they didn't get it. And he went back behind the counter in that post office, and they found the package. It was on the sorting table, and it had fell behind a bench. So I had already made up my mind, well, I don't have formal, and so I won't be going to the banquet or to the prom, which I kind of hated because it was from a class that I liked and had a lot of friends there, but it was nothing that I really missed. But anyhow, Beverly and I and who else? Beverly. Anyway, there was Beverly and I, and maybe Wilma Jean because she was a junior that year. Anyway, we all walked to the proms. No corsages, nothing, no dates, and that's the way 90% of that class was because at this time, as soon as the boys got to be uh, 18, yeah, a lot of them enlisted or volunteered and went. And then, of course, all the older ones, you couldn't take anybody from out of town. It had to be somebody perfect. Well, anyway, we got the prom over, and then it wasn't very long till we had to take the examination for our teaching certificate. Well, towards the end of the year, I think I've already told you that I had my school and so on. And the night before the test, Beverly and Lorene, they went out partying. Now, partying usually meant staying up pretty late and just doing not much of anything but goofing around. But anyway, they went out partying, and for once I didn't go with them. And I stayed home and looked through one book. I don't remember what it was. So the next day, the county superintendent, and it was on a Saturday, county superintendent gave us our examination, and it was a hard examination. So then came the wait, and we had graduation then, and I don't know why Bob and I didn't get to march together because we went by alphabetical order, but anyhow, we didn't get to march together. Bob was, I think, one behind me, so he was in a different row. And the boy that I walked with, it was typical class. He goofed during the whole ceremony. He'd poke me with his elbow and he'd say, "Watch my ears." He'd sit there and either move his head or move his ears or something, and I'd frown at him. But anyway, we got through graduation, and we were still waiting for the tests to come in. Well, going to town one day, why, we stopped and got the mail. Dad handed it to Mother, and he said, Mother said, well, it came. Do you want it? And I said, no, you open it. And so she opened it and read off the grades, and there was 175, but I'd already got a couple 90s, so I thought, well, that's going to bring it pretty close to an average, because you couldn't have any grade lower than a 60, and I think we had to have a 75 before we got our average, before we got our certificates. And when she got through reading them off, Dad said, well, she didn't make it, did she? And I said, yes, I made it. Well, he knew I made it, but he just said that. And so we went on to town, and I saw Beverly right away, and I said, well, did you get your grades? And she said, yeah. She said, I didn't make it, did you? And I said, well, yeah, I did. And I think I had an average of, I don't know, it was either 88 or 90. Anyway, it was well over the 75. Well, then we got to checking, and when we started that normal training class last year, there was 10 of us, 2 boys, and they dropped out right away, so there was only the 8 of us girls, and we did not have a very good teacher. So I don't know what she thought, because I was the only one of the 8 that passed. But they gave another state test, and anybody that had taken normal training and hadn't made it, they could retake the test. And so Beverly and Lorene and one other girl, Marianne Sandy, they took the test and they passed it. And they all 3 had already had their schools. So I don't know what they'd have done if they hadn't passed it. I guess they just had to get someone else, and teachers were very hard to find at that time. So anyhow, that ended high school.
School days, dear old golden rule days, reading and writing and arithmetic, taught to the tune of a hickory stick. I was your girl